Now, if I had to pick one city across the world that I'm most interested in and fascinated by, it would be this city. I'm talking about the city of Murmansk, Russia. And for those of you who always comment, you only talk about isolated places, but your name is Urban Atlas. Well, I hear you. So for today's video, I'm going to be talking about a more urban topic and talk a bit about the geography and planning of the city of Murmansk, Russia. And as always, this is Ali and welcome back to Urban Atlas. Now, imagine a city of 270,000 people, where the sun doesn't rise for 40 days of the year, and where temperatures often plummet to negative 40 degrees Celsius, and where simply existing is an act of human defiance against nature. Well, if you visit this city, you don't have to imagine it, because you can live it. This is Murmansk, Russia. Located approximately 200 kilometers or 125 miles north of the Arctic Circle, this port city is the administrative center of the Murmansk Oblast in the northwest part of Russia. And being this far north, this is actually the largest city north of the Arctic Circle. But to better understand this city, we need to first understand its geography. The city sits on the Kola Peninsula, which is a chunk of ancient rock jutting out into the Barents Sea. And at 68 degrees north latitude, it's further north than any major city in Alaska, Canada, or Scandinavia. The peninsula itself is geologically fascinating. You see, it's part of the Baltic Shield, which is some of the oldest rock on Earth. We're talking approximately 2 billion years old. And the city of Murmansk itself sits on the eastern shore of the Kola Bay, which is actually a massive fjord that cuts approximately 35 miles or 56 kilometers inland from the Barents Sea. And this fjord is the city's lifeline. It's what makes this city the only ice-free port in Arctic Russia. Surprisingly, the Gulf Stream's influences reaches all the way up here, keeping the bay from freezing even when temperatures drop to negative 30 degrees Celsius. And because of this, despite being so far north, Murmansk resembles cities of its size across Western Russia. And with highway and railway access to the rest of Europe, the city is significantly more connected than other Arctic ports like Iqaluit in the Canadian Arctic. And because the city is built on the Baltic Shield, it's full of small hills and valleys. And this varied topography presents massive challenges for urban planners. In addition to the hills and valleys, the terrain is also rocky, uneven, and interrupted by countless small lakes and wetlands. So how do you design a city for a place where winter lasts 8 months of the year and summer temperatures barely reach 20 degrees Celsius? Murmansk urban designers had to throw out conventional city planning and start from scratch. First, let's talk about the architecture. You see, Soviet planners developed what's called the Arctic architecture, buildings designed specifically for extreme cold. This type of approach focused on practicality rather than aesthetics. And thus, buildings were designed to withstand extreme weather conditions such as permafrost and strong winds. And something that sometimes people don't notice is that color becomes crucial in Arctic urban design. In a place where everything is white for half the year, buildings are painted in bright, contrasting colors: reds, blues, yellows, and greens. This isn't just aesthetic, it's actually for psychological survival. These colors help prevent seasonal depression and make navigation easier during the polar night and periods of heavy snowfall. And being the city located in Russia, Murmansk's modern layout is heavily influenced by Soviet urban planning principles. You see, the Soviets saw Murmansk as a crucial and strategic city, home to the Northern Fleet and a key industrial center, so they invested heavily in its development during the mid-20th century. The Soviet approach was to create self-contained districts called mikroraions. I hope I got that pronunciation right. If I didn't, please let me know in the comments below. So each district was designed to house 10,000 to 15,000 people and include everything residents needed: apartments, schools, clinics, shops, and workplaces. This allowed for fast, although low-quality construction with reduced costs. But this created a unique urban form. Instead of just one city center, Murmansk has multiple smaller centers scattered across the landscape, connected by major arterial roads. Each district has its own character and serves as a mini-city within the larger metropolis. The buildings themselves follow Soviet brutalist principles, but adapted for the Arctic. Massive concrete apartment blocks dominate the skyline, and not because they're beautiful, but because they're functional. These buildings can house thousands of people while maintaining and minimizing surface area exposed to the cold. Now, Murmansk is also home to the Great Murmansk Wall, one of Russia's longest residential buildings. At 1,488 meters, the idea for this district was to connect all buildings, house as many people as possible, and then protect them from the Arctic winds. And this design actually leads to decreasing wind speed in the courtyard in the middle by up to 3 times when compared to outside the courtyard. And that period of Soviet development also established Murmansk's industrial character. The port facilities, the shipyards, and the processing plants weren't just economic drivers for the city. They shaped the entire city's layout and identity. Because pretty much everything about Murmansk's urban design radiates outward from its port. This isn't just any port, it's Russia's only year-round ice-free Arctic port, making it strategically and economically vital. And because the shipyard is probably the most important part of the city, the port functions are integrated directly into the urban fabric. This creates some interesting urban design challenges. How do you balance the need for heavy industrial access with livable neighborhoods? Now, the most infamous part of this port complex are the nuclear-powered icebreaker fleet. These massive ships, some over 500 feet long, are based here year-round. And the presence of these kind of vessels influence the entire city's layout. Certain residential areas have to be placed at safe distances, emergency evacuation routes have to be planned, and specialized medical facilities had to be integrated into the urban plan. You see, just approximately 25 kilometers northeast of Murmansk lies the close town of Severomorsk, and this town is home to Russia's nuclear submarine fleet. And thus, this small town located just north of Murmansk is not open to any tourists. Now, keep in mind, for several months of the year, the sun doesn't actually rise in Murmansk. And this is a fundamental urban design challenge that affects everything from street lighting to mental health. Today, Murmansk faces new urban design challenges. You see, climate change is actually creating problems for Arctic cities. Warmer winters mean more freeze-thaw cycles, which are actually harder on infrastructure than consistent cold. But probably the largest problem that the city of Murmansk is facing is population decline. You see, like many large Russian cities, Murmansk has lost about 30% of its population since the Soviet collapse. This creates unique urban planning problems. How do you maintain city services and infrastructure for a shrinking population? Now, in addition to the urban planning challenges, there's also geographical challenges. Like I previously mentioned, the city is located on the coast of the Barents Sea, and this itself is like a geographic anomaly. Unlike most Arctic waters, it's relatively shallow, only 750 feet deep, and it's where the warm Atlantic waters of the Gulf Stream meet the frigid Arctic Ocean. And the collision of water masses creates unique weather patterns that Murmansk planners have to account for. The city experiences what meteorologists call a maritime Arctic climate, which means it's actually warmer than you'd expect for its latitude, but it has incredibly unpredictable weather. Temperatures can swing up to 30 degrees Celsius in a single day, and storm systems can bring hurricane-force winds with little warning. This variability makes infrastructure planning here quite difficult. The surrounding landscape of the Baltic Shield tells the story of a glacial past. The entire region was once carved by massive ice sheets during the last ice age, and those glaciers left behind a landscape of fjords, lakes, and exposed bedrock that create unique microclimates throughout the city. In fact, each valley and hill in the Murmansk area could have its own weather pattern. Some neighborhoods are sheltered from Arctic winds, while others bear the full brunt of Barents Sea storms. And Murmansk sits on the edge of the continental shelf, which means the city experiences some of the most dramatic tidal variations on Earth. There could be up to 13 feet between high and low tide. This tidal variation affects port design, coastal development, and flood management throughout the urban area. Now, interestingly, the Murmansk port is also the western terminus of something known as the Arctic Sea Bridge. This is a sea route linking the Canadian port of Churchill, Manitoba to Murmansk in Russia. Even though the passage has not been fully tested for commercial shipping yet, there have been several instances from shipments arriving from Murmansk to the port of Churchill using the Arctic Sea Route. As we see Arctic ice depleting, the possibility of this becoming a full-time commercial shipping route is possible, and Russian interest in this project is substantial, as this route may serve as the major trade route between North America, Europe, and Asia. And thus, Murmansk represents something remarkable in human achievement. It's proof that we can build thriving cities anywhere on Earth if we're willing to adapt our approach to local conditions. The city's urban design isn't just about buildings or streets, it's actually about human survival and community in one of the planet's most challenging environments. And as always, if you like content like this, remember to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and let me know if you have any ideas or suggestions for any future video topics. So, as always, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.